what's next? Who am I competing with? There's only one person in this world that really matters, and that's myself. And that can be taken as a narcissistic statement, but what it really means is that we really have only ourselves in this world. Everyone else around us might influence us, but we choose whether to accept it or not. And with that, as long as you're not hurting anyone else, as long as you're not imposing on someone else's life, taking yourself first really is a benefit to everyone. Because when you're at your tip-top self, psychologically, you're able to see things in better perspective. You're able to help other people much more effectively and efficiently. So if I'm striving to be like someone else, I'm kind of losing my own path because we're not all the same. We're similar, two identical twins are very similar, but once they're taken away from each other for enough time, they develop different personalities, different likes, different dislikes. And it's why they develop it. It could be from the environment. It just could be things that they experience. Life is random. Stuff comes in. Yeah, people do influence us, whether we, try to be cognizant of it or not, or whether we try to realize it or not. People will influence us, and how we are affected by it is just kind of random, but our minds produce the memories that we use to store and to influence our personalities. So what I'm trying to say is that two depressed people doing the same program, one is 100% effective for, whether it be drugs or psychological treatment or both, it might work perfectly for one and then not work at all for the other. And it doesn't really mean that the program is bad, it just means that everyone is different, and you have to have your own little measuring device to decide whether something someone tells you is working or not. Then use your own ability to understand yourself, because every day, as long as you're keeping yourself priority over everyone else, you're able to figure out whether you're succeeding or not at your goal of being physically fit or being psychologically fit or learning something. Schools do test us, but they use the same measuring device, and it just doesn't work. You have to figure out how someone's progressing over where they were before, rather than judging them for where they fail. You have to figure out, okay, they have failed at this thing, but kind of why? I don't think kids who are labeled troublemakers are actually bad. I think they just get frustrated with the system, and they can't fall in because their minds just don't work like that. I'm lucky. My son is a relatively intelligent kid, but he's socially inept. That comes from me because I think that's a biological thing, socially inept. I work really hard at being semi-social, but given my own accord when I don't have to be social, I'm terrible. People find me humorous because I know what to say. I have some comic timing, but that's only with other people around, and I can read the room. It doesn't mean I'm intelligent or have any social abilities. It just means I can read the signs. And it's a constant adjustment, because I will, given the right circumstances, say things to offend people. And you can't use the same joke, because some people will find an offensive statement funny, others will find an offensive statement wrong. And in the whole measurement of things, if someone finds something wrong, it's wrong for everybody. Now, my measurement device is, as long as it's not hurting anybody, as long as I'm not actively going out to hurt somebody, it's not wrong. And the offensiveness comes from those who hear it and how they take it. The same statement changes due to perspective. You may say something that, let's say you buy a vacuum for one woman and she'll be offended because you're telling her she should be a housewife. You buy a vacuum for a second person and they are very appreciative because they need a new vacuum in their life. They need, the vacuum that they had was broken and they just can't afford to buy a new one. You know, and it's a vacuum can be an offensive thing for most husbands to give to their wives, but there's a time when a vacuum is the appropriate gift. Giving pots and pans to one person, say husband, housewife, you know, might be giving the pots and pans, and they go, well, fine, I'm just a cook to you. Well, another person, thank you very much. I want to be a chef. I want to work on my hobby of cooking well. It's all perspective. Offenses, you know, items are taken due to their offense. So what I'm trying to say is that when someone does something to offend you, you have to stop and figure yourself, why is this offending me? Are they intending to offend me? If they're intending to offend you, that's wrong, no matter what they say, even if it's something funny. If they're intending to offend you, that's wrong. On the other hand, if they say something that's offensive and they're not intending to offend you, as long as you can't take it as an offense because it was never intended. But you are encouraged to discuss it with them because they really should know what they said could be construed as offensive, and that you kind of took it as offensive, but you understand that they don't intend it, so let it go. And more to the point, if someone offends you or not, you got to just forgive them right away. Because blaming someone and being angry at someone is just holding on to a bunch of coal. It's heavy, it's going to weigh you down, it's going to burn you, it's going to harm you. And it's going to do a little effect to them because, I mean, they're not going to accept it because, hey, I didn't do something wrong towards you. You're just too sensitive. So we have to keep focusing ourselves, make ourselves better, forgive others. But forgiving does not mean forgetting. It just means accepting it as is, using that to, whether to trust them in the future or not, and just release it. Because you don't need that garbage in you. You don't need your anger towards them. You don't need their offensive comments to keep calling back and forth to your head. You forgive them and you walk away. And don't let the same person do the same offense towards you. That's just stupid, because you gotta take yourself as priority. You take yourself as priority and forgive everybody. There is a balancing act, but in the end, you have a much better mindset. And having a healthy mind really, really helps you become a healthy body. Because part of our lovely brains is that when we get stressed, for some reason, it triggers the desire to eat. Even a skinny person, when they get stressed, they'll eat. But a skinny person has a metabolism that when they eat more, their body burns quicker, and they want to get more active because they just jump around. I remember that. I remember being a kid and everyone wanted to stop. I was looking for new adventures. But that's not here nor there. Take yourself as most important without hurting anybody else. And forgive everybody. But don't have to forget. What's next?